There's a moment most women miss, and it changes everything. It's not loud, it's not dramatic, it's quiet. It's the moment you stop trying so hard to keep him. Not because you've given up, but because you've finally realized your worth doesn't depend on whether he stays or goes. And here's the truth no one tells you: men don't fall deepest when they feel secured. They fall when they feel something real could slip away. Because when you're always there, always available, always adjusting yourself just to keep him close, there's no tension, no mystery, no reason for him to step forward. But the second you lean back, the second you choose yourself without fear, something shifts inside him. He starts to feel your absence even when you're still around. He starts to notice your energy, your silence, your calm confidence, and suddenly, you're not just there anymore. You're someone he could lose, and that changes how he sees you. You see, the woman a man falls hardest for isn't the one who holds on tighter when things feel uncertain. It's the one who can let go without breaking herself. The one who doesn't beg, doesn't chase, doesn't lose her identity just to keep someone interested. There's something deeply attractive about that kind of energy. It's calm, it's powerful, and yes, it's a little dangerous. Because when you stop making him your center, he starts trying to earn a place in your world. And if you really understand this, you'll see letting him go isn't losing control. It's the moment you finally take it back. Here's something simple, but very powerful. People move toward what feels good, and they pull away from what feels heavy. And in relationships, that heavy feeling often comes from pressure, not love. When a man feels like he has to constantly explain himself, check in all the time, or meet unspoken expectations just to keep things okay, it slowly drains the excitement out of the connection. It starts to feel like responsibility instead of desire, and desire can't grow where there's pressure. That's why freedom matters so much. When you give a man space, not distance in a cold way, but emotional breathing room, you change how he experiences you. Instead of feeling like he has to be there, he begins to want to be there. And that difference is everything. Because when something is his choice, it becomes valuable to him. Think about it. Anything that feels forced loses its charm, but anything we choose freely feels exciting, even addictive. When you stop trying to control the outcome, stop trying to manage his feelings or actions, you send a quiet message. I trust myself enough to not chase, and that energy is powerful. It's calm, it's steady, and it feels safe to be around. He doesn't feel like he's being pulled in 10 different directions. Instead, he feels relaxed. And in that relaxed state, his real emotions have space to grow. He starts to notice you more, not because you're demanding attention, but because your presence feels light and easy. And that's rare. A lot of women think giving space means losing connection, but it's actually the opposite. Real connection grows in space, not in control. When you're not constantly available, not always the first one to reach out, not always adjusting your world around him, he begins to feel your absence in small ways. He starts to miss you. He wonders what you're doing. He feels a pull toward you that comes naturally, not because you created it, but because you allowed it to happen. And here's the deeper part. Freedom also shows strength. It shows that you're not afraid of losing him because you're not holding on to him out of fear. You're choosing him, but you're also choosing yourself. And that balance is incredibly attractive. It tells him that being with you is a privilege, not something he can take for granted. So instead of feeling like he has you no matter what, he starts to invest more. He starts to show up better. Because now he feels like he has something to earn, not something that's just given without effort. At the end of the day, love isn't about holding someone tightly so they don't leave. It's about creating a space where they want to stay. And when you give that kind of freedom, you don't lose him, you give him a reason to come closer on his own. There's something a man feels before he can even explain it. It's the energy of a woman who knows her worth. Not the loud kind that tries to prove something, not the kind that seeks attention or approval, but a quiet, grounded confidence that doesn't need validation to exist. And that energy, it pulls him in without effort. Because when a woman truly values herself, everything about how she shows up changes. She doesn't overgive just to be liked. She doesn't chase just to feel chosen. She doesn't shrink herself to fit into someone else's world. Instead, she stands in her own space, calm, steady, and sure of who she is. And that's rare. That's what makes a man stop and pay attention. You see, most people look for love in a way that says, "Do you want me?" But a woman with self-worth moves differently. Her energy says, "I know what I bring. The question is, do you deserve access to it?" And without saying a word, that changes the dynamic completely. Now, he's not the center of everything. You are. Not in an ego way, but in a grounded, self-respecting way. And that shift makes him lean in. Because when something feels valuable, when it feels like it's not easily available, it naturally becomes more attractive. It's human nature. We invest more in what we feel we could lose. When you don't rely on him for your happiness, it removes pressure from the connection. You're not expecting him to fill your emotional gaps or constantly reassure you. You're already whole, and that makes being with you feel light, not heavy. It feels like a choice, not a duty. And in that space, he starts to show up more. Not because you're asking him to, but because he wants to. Because he can feel that your attention, your time, your energy, it's something he has to earn, not something he automatically gets. And here's where it gets deeper. When a woman respects herself, she naturally sets boundaries. Not harsh, not controlling, just clear. She knows what she accepts and what she doesn't. And she's willing to walk away from anything that doesn't meet her standard. That's not cold, that's powerful. Because it tells him that your presence in his life is not guaranteed, and when something isn't guaranteed, it becomes valuable. He starts to think twice. He starts to put in more effort because he knows you won't stay just for the sake of staying. Self-worth also creates emotional stability. You're not reacting to every little thing. You're not losing yourself in fear or insecurity. You're steady, and that steadiness makes him feel safe. He knows he can come to you without chaos, without drama, without pressure. And over time, that kind of calm confidence becomes something he doesn't want to lose. At the end of the day, a man doesn't fall deepest for the woman who needs him. He falls for the woman who chooses him, without ever losing herself. Because when you truly know your worth, you don't chase love, you attract it. There's a part of attraction that people don't talk about enough, and it's this: when everything is known, everything is predictable, desire slowly fades. Not because the connection isn't real, but because there's nothing left to discover. Human nature is wired for curiosity. We lean toward what we don't fully understand, what we can't completely figure out. And in relationships, that sense of mystery plays a quiet but powerful role. When you let a man go, emotionally stepping back just enough, you create space. And in that space, something interesting happens. He starts to think about you more than when you were always right there. When you're constantly available, always replying instantly, always sharing every detail of your day, there's no gap for him to wonder about you. There's no moment where he pauses and thinks, "What is she doing right now?" Or, "Why am I missing her?" But the second you pull your energy back, not in a cold or distant way, but in a balanced, self-focused way, you naturally become less predictable. And that unpredictability sparks curiosity. He starts to notice your absence in small ways. Maybe it's the way your messages aren't always there. Maybe it's how you're busy living your life instead of waiting for his. And slowly, without you forcing anything, he begins to feel drawn toward you again. Mystery doesn't mean playing games or pretending to be someone you're not. It simply means you don't reveal everything all at once. You allow him to discover you over time. You keep parts of your world for yourself, your passions, your routines, your personal space, and that creates depth. Because when a man feels like there's always more to learn about you, more layers to uncover, he stays engaged, he stays interested, he keeps leaning in. And here's the deeper truth. When you let him go, even slightly, you allow him to experience your absence. And absence has a powerful effect. It doesn't erase attraction, it often strengthens it. Because in that space, he starts to replay moments with you. He starts to remember how you made him feel. And feelings grow stronger when they're not constantly being fed, but instead allowed to breathe. It's like giving him the chance to miss you, to crave your presence, to feel that quiet pull that only comes when something meaningful isn't always within reach. A lot of women fear this. They think if they step back, he'll forget them or lose interest. But the truth is, When attraction is real, a little distance doesn't break it. It deepens it. It gives him the opportunity to come forward on his own. And when he does, it's not because you chased him, it's because he felt something pulling him back. Mystery also shows emotional control. It shows that you're not driven by urgency or fear. You're comfortable in your own space. You don't need constant attention to feel secure. And that calm, slightly unpredictable energy becomes incredibly attractive. It keeps the connection alive, fresh, and exciting. At the end of the day, desire isn't built in constant closeness. It's built in the balance between presence and absence. And when you understand how to create that balance naturally, you don't just keep his attention, you stay on his mind. There's something every man wants, but rarely knows how to ask for: emotional safety. Not control, not perfection, just a space where he can be himself without feeling judged, pressured, or constantly tested. And this is where most connections quietly fall apart. Because when a woman reacts from fear, overthinking his actions, questioning his intentions, needing constant reassurance, it creates tension. He starts to feel like no matter what he does, it's not enough. And over time, that feeling makes him pull back, not because he doesn't care, but because he doesn't feel safe to be fully present. Now here's the shift. When you let a man go, when you stop trying to hold everything together so tightly, you naturally create a different kind of space. A calm one, a grounded one. You're no longer reacting to every little change in his mood or behavior. You're not chasing answers or forcing clarity before it's ready. Instead, you're steady. You trust yourself, and that steadiness becomes something he can relax into. He doesn't feel like he's walking on eggshells. He doesn't feel like he has to perform just to keep the connection alive. He feels accepted, and that's powerful because when a man feels emotionally safe, he opens up in ways he normally wouldn't. He shares more. He stays longer in conversations. He becomes more present, not because he has to, but because he wants to. And this is where deeper love begins. Not in intensity, not in constant closeness, but in that quiet comfort of knowing he can be himself around you, that there's no pressure to be perfect, that he won't be pushed away the moment he shows a flaw. And the truth is, emotional safety doesn't come from saying the right words. It comes from how you respond. When you don't overreact, when you don't assume the worst, when you don't turn every small issue into something bigger, it shows emotional strength. It shows that you're not ruled by fear or insecurity, and that kind of calm energy is rare. Most people bring chaos into relationships without realizing it. So when he experiences peace with you, it stands out. It feels different. It feels like something worth holding on to. Letting him go also removes pressure from his side. He doesn't feel forced to commit before he's ready. He doesn't feel like he's being pulled faster than he can move. And in that freedom, something interesting happens. He starts to move closer on his own. Because now, the connection feels natural. It doesn't feel like something he's being pushed into. It feels like something he's choosing. And here's the deeper part. When you're emotionally safe, you're also emotionally independent. You're not relying on him to regulate your feelings. You're not expecting him to fix your moods or carry your emotional weight. You handle yourself with calm and clarity, and that makes him respect you more. Because he sees that you're strong, not just on the outside, but within. At the end of the day, a man doesn't fall deepest in chaos. He falls where he feels at peace. And when you create that kind of space, without holding too tightly, without forcing anything, you don't just keep him interested. You become the place he doesn't want to leave. There's a big misunderstanding when it comes to love. People think holding on proves how much you care. That if you fight harder, wait longer, and tolerate more, it somehow makes the connection stronger. But the truth is often the opposite. Real strength isn't in holding on at any cost. It's in knowing when to let go without losing yourself. And this is where a woman becomes unforgettable. Because when you can step back, not out of anger, not to punish, but from a place of self-respect, it sends a message that goes deeper than words. It says, I value myself enough to walk away from anything that doesn't value me the same. And that kind of energy hits differently. A man may not always react immediately, but he feels it, because most people don't have that level of control. Most people stay even when they're unhappy. just to avoid losing someone. But when you show that you're okay on your own, that you're not afraid of being without him, it creates a shift. Suddenly, you're not someone who's just there no matter what. You're someone he could actually lose. And loss is powerful. It makes people reflect. It makes them realize what they had, sometimes only after it's no longer guaranteed. Letting go doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop forcing. You stop trying to convince someone to choose you. You stop lowering your standards just to keep the connection alive. And in doing that, you protect something very important, your dignity. Because nothing weakens attraction faster than desperation. When a man feels like you'll stay regardless of how he shows up, there's no urgency for him to grow, to improve, or to invest more. But when he senses that your presence in his life depends on how he treats you, everything changes. Now he has to meet you where you stand, or risk losing you. And here's the deeper truth. Walking away, or being ready to walk away, builds respect. Not just from him, but from yourself. You start to see yourself differently. You stop accepting less than you deserve. And that inner shift reflects in everything you do, how you speak, how you carry yourself, how you respond to situations. It's no longer about proving your worth. It's about living it. And that's what makes a man take you seriously. Because he sees that you're not attached out of need. You're connected by choice. Sometimes letting go even creates space for him to come back stronger. Because now he has felt what it's like without you. He has experienced that gap, that absence, and if the connection truly mattered, he'll feel the pull to return, but this time with more clarity, more effort, more intention. Not because you asked him to, but because he realized on his own. At the end of the day, love isn't about losing yourself to keep someone. It's about choosing yourself, even if it means risking the relationship. And ironically, that's what makes the right person stay. Because strength is attractive, self-respect is attractive, and a woman who can let go without falling apart is the one a man never truly forgets. So here's what it all comes down to. Love was never meant to feel like a struggle to hold someone in place. It was meant to feel natural, chosen, and real. The moment you stop chasing, stop overthinking, and stop trying to control every outcome, you step into a completely different kind of power. You become the woman who doesn't just attract attention, but earns respect. The woman who doesn't beg for love, but inspires it. And the truth is, when you start choosing yourself like that, everything shifts, not just in how men see you, but in how you see yourself. If something in this message clicked for you, don't just listen and move on. Take a moment and really ask yourself, where have you been holding on too tightly? Where have you been forgetting your own worth just to keep someone close? Because the real transformation begins when you decide to do things differently. When you decide that your peace, your value, and your self-respect will never be negotiable again. And if you want more content like this, honest, simple, and actually helpful, make sure you stay connected. Because this is just the beginning. There's so much more to understand about attraction, confidence, and real connection. But for now, remember this. The right kind of love doesn't come from chasing someone to stay. It comes from becoming someone who never has to.